This is what I study, and this is my version of spirituality. I get this question a lot, especially on some of my more complex and abstract videos. If I personally was to recommend a religion or a doctrine to follow, it would be Buddhism. There's different categories within Buddhism, but the first category I came across, it was one that did not deal with any sort of deities. Buddhism breaks down and explains human psychology to a T, and it simultaneously shows you that human psychology is universal psychology. I read this book, Why Buddhism is True. Me personally, I can understand spirituality a lot better if it's being broken down and explained to me by science. We use science in everyday life. It's a lot easier to place my belief in science than in something untangible. For example, this isn't from that book specifically. Buddhism says, we conclude that the self is a convenient term for a collection of physical and mental personal experiences such as feelings, ideas, thoughts, habits, attitude, etc. However, we should go on to analyze all our personal experiences in terms of the 5 aggregates. So through understanding form, sensation, perception, mental formation, and consciousness, you can attain the wisdom of not self. Now, me personally, I cross-reference that with science. A scientist is also saying the self is an illusion. Now, the whole reason I began trying to understand what the fuck a self is because I eat a lot of mushrooms. And during my very first experience, I realized I did not exist. And once I realized I didn't exist, I became God. When I snapped back into it, I'm like, yeah, that was realer than anything I've experienced in my life. I gotta go figure that out. And so you just Google, do we not exist? And then science sends you down this rabbit hole. That's literally all spirituality is. That's all religion is. Because not everybody is built to handle a trip, how can we take the non-hippies and bring them into this level of enlightenment? I've read books on Hinduism, Taoism, books on Christianity. Because when you're dealing with Krishna, Brahman, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, Jeb, Nut, Ra, having to keep track of entities just confused the fuck out of me. But what I can say is now that I'm at this level of mind, Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism, Taoism, it all comes from Egyptian spirituality. Egyptian spirituality, Kemeticism, the Anunian theurgy. But you don't have to be spiritual at all. You'll reach enlightenment if you gain an understanding of the ID, ego, and superego in psychology. The people that we exist as is nothing more than a constantly changing set of psychological processes. If you forget that you're God and you start believing in the psychological processes, you cut yourself off from source. And what that does is it creates a whole bunch of bad shit in the world. The purpose of religion is just to make you realize you don't fucking exist. At least not in the way that you think you do. So Buddhism to me, even though it comes from Kemeticism, I'm not saying it doesn't contain difficult concepts or anything that's going to be hard to wrap your mind around, but it's a lot easier to understand. I have a mind. I experience this motherfucker every day. I've never seen a heaven or a hell. I've never seen any of these other deities or symbolic representations. It's all mythology to explain the mind to you. Science, religion, metaphysics, meditation.